move on to what happened on Sunday. Early game Sunday. Baltimore hung the Big Crab Cake, M&T Bank Stadium. The Ravens are undefeated there this year. And I'm going to be honest with you. I bet on the Texans. They were getting 7.5 points, and I thought that was the bet of the week, and I took it, and I took it big. I did not think this game was going to be a blowout like most people did. The Baltimore Ravens, here's a little secret. They don't play very well at home. They're undefeated at home, but they don't play very well at home. I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but just go back and take a look at it. I mean, this team squeaks by. I know they're a defensive-oriented team, and they're not very flashy and all that, but there's something bothers me about this team, and I'm not sure what it is. Arizona, 30-27. They barely beat them at home. Bengals, 31-24. Squeaked by them at home. That ugly Thanksgiving night game, they weren't ever really not in control of that game. That game should have been a lot worse, though. That game ended 16-6. The Colts hung around on them at home. So did the Cleveland Browns on Christmas Eve. The Cleveland Browns should have won that game. I like the Ravens D. I don't like Joe Flacco. I'm sorry. He's okay. I don't like the Ravens because they do things like beat Pittsburgh by 4 touchdowns in Week 1 and turn around and lose by 2 touchdowns to the Titans in Week 2. I don't like the Ravens because they go and they beat a very good Houston Texans team Week 6. They beat them by 2 touchdowns. Fully loaded. Schaub, Andre Johnson, Arian Foster. I mean, this was the Houston Texans that we thought was going to be in the playoffs, and they handled them. And then what did they do the next week? They went down to Jacksonville and they scored 7 points. They lost to Jacksonville 12-7. Name me another team this year that lost to Jacksonville when Jacksonville only scored 12 points. Nobody did. Only the Ravens did that. And so what do? They go and they come from behind against Pittsburgh and beat them again. They swept the Steelers. This is huge in Ravenland. And what do? They go out the next week and they lay an egg against Seattle. The Seahawks, who were at that time dreadful. Seattle finished kind of strong, but overall, I mean, that's a dreadful football team. And then they went to San Diego on Sunday night with a whole bunch of stuff riding on it, and they got blasted, and they almost lost a first-round bye because of that. This team plays down to its competition. It's inconsistent. I don't trust them. That being said, that defense keeps them in every single game they play, and that's how they do it. It's ugly, but they do it. And looking back on Sunday's game, there was a couple plays that decided that game. I don't know if Jacoby Jones has made it back to Houston. I don't know if they even let him on the plane. That punt that he muffed in the first quarter was absolutely dreadful. That was one of the worst plays I've ever seen in the playoffs by any player. What he was thinking, I don't even know. But that gave the Ravens 7 free points. And when you spot the Ravens to make it 10-0 at that point, you spot the Ravens 10 points 5 minutes into the game at home, let me tell you, the Ravens don't give up a lot of points. It was 17-3 after the first quarter. Turnovers killed the Texans in the first quarter. The Ravens got the touchdown on the punt muff. They got the fumble. They capitalized on their opportunities. And by the time Houston adjusted, it was too late. Quarters 2 through 4, the rest of the game, Houston wins 10-3. Baltimore only had 1 field goal the rest of the game. Don't tell me turnovers don't matter. They matter. And they're huge, and it's the biggest thing in football. A turnover is the biggest thing in football. 4 turnovers for Houston, 0 for Baltimore. Another stunning thing, Baltimore. No penalties. Baltimore is year in, year out, one of the highest penalized teams in the league, mainly because they have an aggressive defense and also because they have a lot of hotheads on their team, such as Terrell Suggs. But no penalties, no turnovers. Pretty simple. Don't turn the ball over, stop the run, you'll win games. And that's what they did. Wasn't fancy. Joe Flacco, meh. 14 for 27, barely over 50%. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over, but he's just kind of there. He's a little better than Trent Dilfer, but he's not that much better than Trent Dilfer. Ray Rice, 20 carries, 60 yards. Meh, not that good. The Ravens, they didn't do much. They played good defense, but that's what they do. They're going to have to score more points against New England, like it or not. People, Ravens fans are going to say, oh, our defense is great and we're going to stop Tom Brady. That's fine. You're going to stop Tom Brady somewhat, but you're going to still have to score points. And if you don't score points, it doesn't matter how good your defense is going to be. You're not going to shut the Patriots out. You going to hold the Patriots to 10 points? I don't think so. What are you going to do? You're going to hold Brady to what? What would you say is a good day against the Patriots? 21, 24 points? I'll tell you what, Ray Rice isn't going to run your way to 21, 24 points. Joe Flacco is going to have to make some plays, and I don't trust Joe Flacco. But that should be a very interesting game, though, either way, because of Baltimore's defense. Baltimore's defense is going to keep it close. No, we're going to look at it. It's going to be interesting. This is one that I'm pretty fired up about. Baltimore and New England. It's going to be a good game, and we'll get into that in a few. Last game on the docket is everybody's calling it discount double choke. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, buddy. I don't know what to think about the Green Bay Packers right now. Think about this. Last year they won the Super Bowl. They were the 6th seed. And what did they do as the 6th seed? They played their first game on the road in a dome. That is incorrect. They played their first game against a banged-up Eagle team that they only scored 20 points in. In that game, Aaron Rodgers was okay. He threw for 234 yards. Not bad, but not ideal. Then they went into Atlanta in a dome, and he threw all over the place, and he just had a field day. And then they went and they beat an undermanned Chicago team that had no business being in the NFC title game in the first place. Last year, they had a very easy ride through the playoffs. They didn't really have to deal with a lot of bad weather. That game in Chicago was actually really nice. The game in Philadelphia was really nice. They played inside against Atlanta. I'm not saying they're as bad as the Saints are outside of home and things like that, but let me tell you, you look at the Packers, they're a dome team. They are built as a dome team. Questionable defense, offense spreads the ball around, tons of weapons. Jennings, Driver, Jordy Nelson, Jermichael Finley. I mean, they have weapons galore. I'd love to be Aaron Rodgers. He probably does a discount double check to make sure he's on the right team, and it's his real life. He has so many weapons. They're built on speed. They're built on the vertical passing game. But the problem I have with the Packers is they're the Packers. It's cold there in January. You can't throw the ball 55 times in January. I don't care how good you are at it. The Giants did the exact same thing they did to Brett Favre in 2007. They did. They went in there. They knew the Packers were going to throw the ball. They hurried Aaron Rodgers. They hit him. They confused him, gave him different looks. They were more aggressive. They ran the ball. The Giants, like them or not, kids, this is a team that knows how to win late in the season. They know how to win in weather. They know how to win on the road. Tom Coughlin every year is on the hot seat, and it blows my mind why every year. Tom Coughlin is one of the best coaches in the NFL, and I would like somebody to question me and say that I'm wrong. This guy, what he's done with injuries all year, fighting through all kinds of stuff. These guys lost to the Redskins twice. The Redskins. So, I mean, when you're thinking about the Giants, you think run the ball, smash mouth, they had Ron Dane, Tiki Barber, all those guys. Now they have Brandon Jacobs and Ahmad Bradshaw, and they just run the ball, right? Take a step back and look at the Giants now. Is anybody playing better quarterback right now than Eli Manning? Eli Manning, 21 for 33, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, 114 QB rating. He outplayed Aaron Rodgers, everybody. Hakeem Nicks, Mario Manningham, Victor Cruz. Anybody have a better trio of wide receivers left in the NFL in these playoffs than the New York Giants? Nope. They're going to go to San Francisco. Weather holding up, they're going to be able to do things against San Francisco. They should have won that game earlier this season against San Francisco. I like this Giants team. They remind me a lot of the Giants team that won the whole thing a couple years ago. Pretty good start. Got hurt. Kind of fell apart. Backs against the wall. Coughlin rallies the troops. They go on a run. They get hot. Bang, they won a title. It's the same thing that's happening this year, guys. Ahmad Bradshaw is healthy. Brandon Jacobs is healthy. Nicks, Manningham. I mean, they're all back. Eli Manning is playing the best football of his career right now. I mean, he was on a couple of my fantasy teams. Trust me, I know what this guy did this year. I benched Matt Ryan on a couple of my teams from Eli Manning. I mean, this guy... He is walking out of his brother's shadow. It might have taken him a long time. The guy won a Super Bowl, for God's sake. I mean, what else do you want him to do? The Giants are playing good ball. Very good ball. They held the Packers to 388 yards. It was one of the lowest outputs of the season. The lowest output for them all season at home. Again, in turnovers... these teams that lost this week, they turned the ball over. 4 turnovers for the Packers. 3 fumbles. 7 drops, depending on who you ask. The offensive coordinator, his son passed away, and I don't know. I'm sure that had some sort of effect somehow. I don't know if it was good or bad or what, but that was definitely something they were dealing with. But you could just tell... during the game that the Packers were just a little bit off. They didn't... I mean, how many balls did Jordy Nelson drop all year? He dropped a bunch last night. 2 nights ago. It's really fascinating to look how teams are constructed. How they're constructed to win on a regular basis versus in the playoffs. The Giants barely won the division. I mean, they had to beat the Cowboys the last game of the season to just get into the playoffs. I mean, did anybody on Halloween say, hey, the Giants are going to go all the way and win the Super Bowl? I don't think anybody thought that. They almost didn't win a game in the month of November. November 6th, they beat the Patriots by 4 points. They came from behind at Foxborough. Good win. At the Niners, Eagles at home, at the Saints, Packers at home. They lost all 4 of them.